Every week, most households buy the same three things without thinking about it. Onions, green onions, garlic. They're basic, they're everywhere, they feel unavoidable. But here's the quiet truth most people never hear. There is one single plant that can replace all three. Not partially, not kind of, functionally, practically, historically. And it's not new, it's not experimental, and it didn't disappear because it failed. It disappeared because it didn't fit the way food is sold now. That plant is called the walking onion, also known as the Egyptian walking onion. Its scientific name is Allium X proliferum. And once you understand how this plant works, it permanently changes how you look at grocery vegetables. Most modern onions are annuals. You plant them, you wait, you harvest once, and then the plant is gone. Walking onions do the opposite. You plant them one time, and they keep feeding you year after year. Not because they're bigger, not because they're engineered, but because they were selected for reliability, not retail. Let's start with the first grocery vegetable this plant replaces: onions. At the base of a walking onion, underground, it forms bulbs. They're smaller than supermarket onions, but they cook the same way. They store well, they caramelize, they flavor food exactly like onions have always done. Historically, families didn't need massive onions, they needed dependable ones, and that's what walking onions provided. In colder climates, in poorer soils, and in places where seed onions often failed, walking onions survived. If drought ruined the tops, the bulbs stayed alive underground. If frost came early, the plant returned the next season anyway. That alone already replaces one grocery purchase. But here's where it gets interesting. Because the same plant also replaces green onions. Unlike standard onions, walking onions produce tall, hollow green stalks early in the season. These greens can be cut again and again, just like scallions. You don't pull the plant out, you don't reset anything. You simply harvest what you need. For much of history, this was the main value of the plant. Fresh greens in early spring when little else was growing. Before refrigeration, before supermarkets, before year-round imports, this plant gave families flavor when flavor was scarce. And now we get to the part most people don't expect. Walking onions also replace garlic. At the top of the plant, instead of flowering, it produces clusters of small bulbs called bulbils. These top bulbs are strong, sharp, pungent. They can be chopped like garlic, stored like garlic, cooked like garlic. Some people even prefer them because the flavor is concentrated. So from one plant, you get underground bulbs like onions, green stalks like scallions, top bulbs that function like garlic. 3 grocery vegetables, 1 perennial plant. This wasn't accidental. Walking onions were valued because they removed risk from food production. You didn't need seeds every year. You didn't need perfect timing. You didn't need ideal conditions. The plant handled those problems for you. So why don't grocery stores sell them? Because walking onions don't behave like products. They don't mature all at once. They don't look uniform. They reproduce themselves instead of forcing you to buy more. And worst of all, from a retail perspective, once you have them, you stop needing to buy onions, green onions, and garlic regularly. That's not efficient for shelves, but it's incredibly efficient for households. Modern agriculture selected crops that harvest at the same time, ship long distances, look identical, require repeat purchases. Walking onions failed those tests, not because they were weak, but because they were independent. Now, to be honest, this plant isn't perfect. The bulbs are smaller than modern onions. The flavor can be stronger. It spreads if you let it, which some gardeners don't like. But those traits weren't flaws historically. They were features. Smaller bulbs meant steady harvests. Stronger flavor meant less quantity needed. Self-spreading meant survival without replanting. If someone wants to grow walking onions safely and neatly today, the solution is simple. Plant them where spreading isn't a problem, harvest the top bulbils before they fall, and replant only what you want. Use the greens regularly to keep growth controlled. In return, you get one of the lowest maintenance food plants possible. This is the part worth sitting with. Walking onions didn't disappear because something better replaced them. They disappeared because we stopped designing food systems around resilience and started designing them around sales. And that's the real story behind many plants we no longer grow. Not failure, replacement. Not inefficiency, inconvenience. For the system, not for people. Once you see that, you can't unsee it. And suddenly the question isn't, why don't more people grow this? The question becomes, why were we ever taught to stop?